Hello there, and welcome to The Sleepy Astronaut. Tonight, we are going to drift together into a question that sounds, at first, like a riddle with no floor beneath it. A question that seems to ask about nothing at all, and yet holds within it almost everything there is. What lies in the dark between galaxies? It is a strange and lovely paradox, because the honest answer is both nearly nothing and very nearly everything. An emptiness so wide it loops back around into a kind of fullness, a hush so deep it begins to feel less like absence and more like welcome. We tend to imagine that dark is cold and unkind, a yawning gap waiting to swallow whatever wanders in, and yet the truer picture is far more tender than that, far more forgiving, far more like a place that could simply hold you and ask nothing of you in return. For think of that immense dark not as a chasm, but as the thinnest of seas, a vastness so very nearly empty that its emptiness softens into gentleness. An ocean you could drift across forever and never once strike ashore, never bump an edge, never be asked to stop. There is no rock to bruise against out there, no wall to find, only the long, slow, open water of space carrying you the way a tide carries something it has decided to keep. You are not falling in that dark. You are floating, held, unhurried, and the more you let that image settle into your body, the more the spaces inside you seem to widen and quiet too. Over the slow hours ahead, we will wade out into 4 shallows of this thin sea, one at a time, never rushing. First, we will meet the faint gas that fills the gulfs between the galaxies, threads of hydrogen so sparse that a whole roomful would hold only a few stray atoms, and yet which, gathered across the immense distances, outweighs all the stars combined. Then we will lower ourselves into the great cosmic voids, the enormous hushed bubbles where galaxies thin almost to nothing and the dark grows roomiest of all, the most peaceful pools in the whole wide ocean. After that, we will trace the unseen web, the vast filaments of dark matter strung like soft threads through everything, the quiet scaffolding that keeps the galaxies from scattering. That holds the whole arrangement together with a patient, invisible pull. And last, we will give ourselves over to the wandering, weightless hush of the deep between, the rogue worlds and lost stars that drift through the dark with no sun to circle, serene and unbothered, going wherever the slow currents take them. If, as we travel, you find your breathing easing and the day loosening its grip, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake, others searching the dark for something low and steady to carry them down into rest. And I am so glad you are here among them tonight. So let yourself begin to arrive. Feel the weight of your body where it meets the bed, that honest, simple heaviness, and let the surface beneath you take all of it, every ounce. So there is nothing left for you to hold. Feel your breath move on its own, in and slowly out, each exhale a little longer than the one before, each one paying out more of the thread that ties you to the waking world, letting it unspool soft and loose until you are drifting on it like that thinnest of seas. There is nowhere to swim to. There is no far shore to reach. Settle in. Let your shoulders ease down from wherever they have been holding. Let's begin. And so you let your eyes settle on that darkness between the bright islands of light, the places where the galaxies hang like distant lamps in a window, and you notice how the space between them seems to be made of nothing at all, a pure and uninterrupted dark, a black so complete it could almost frighten you if you let it. And yet the longer you rest your attention there, the more you begin to feel that this is not absence, but a kind of presence. Not a hole in the world, but a vast and patient room. And you breathe in slowly, and you breathe out slowly, and you let the question come to you, the way a tide comes to a shore, without effort, without hurry, simply arriving and then receding. What is it? You wonder. What truly lies in all that dark between the galaxies, and the answer, when it comes not as a fact, but as a feeling, a sense of something so thinly spread, so faintly present, that it has become a kind of tenderness. Because here is the thing your body already half knows. The dark out there is not empty. Not really. It only looks like nothing to eyes that were built for daylight and dust and the warmth of a single small star. But the true space between the galaxies is a sea, the thinnest of seas, an ocean drawn out so far and so fine that you could drift through it forever and never once touch a shore. Never bump against a rock, never feel the cold edge of anything at all, and you let that image hold you now. An ocean so nearly empty that its emptiness becomes a softness, a place where nothing presses on you, where nothing reaches for you, where you are simply carried, weightless and unhurried, through a dark that asks nothing of you and offers only room, only space, only the long, slow permission to rest. And if you could shrink yourself down and travel out there, into the great between, into the dark that lies in the long gulfs separating one island of stars from the next, you would find that it is almost perfectly empty. And yet not quite, never quite. For even in the most desolate reach of that immensity, in the widest and loneliest stretch of the cosmic dark, there still drift a few wandering atoms, a handful of hydrogen, the faintest scattering of matter spread so thin that you would have to gather up an enormous volume of that dark, a region larger than you can easily picture, just to find a single one. And somehow this does not feel desolate at all. It feels generous. It feels like a sea that has been thinned almost to silence, so that there is room, endless room for stillness to live in. And you feel your own breath slowing to match it, the in and the out growing longer, growing easier, your chest rising and falling like that distant tide. Think of the air in the room around you, the air you are breathing right now, without even trying. In every small handful of it, there are more particles than you could count in 100 lifetimes, a teeming crowd of them, jostling and bouncing and pressing on your skin. And that is what fullness feels like. That is what a sea with a shore feels like, dense and close and brushing against you on every side. But the dark between the galaxies is the opposite of that. It is a vastness so rarefied that a single thread of it, stretched out across the void, might hold only a whisper of matter along its entire enormous length. And so when you imagine drifting there, you are not imagining suffocation or pressure or the closeness of crowds. You are imagining the opposite, a place where the thinning of everything has become a kind of mercy, where there is finally nothing to push against you, nothing to hold you, only the long open dark and your own slow breath moving through it. And there is a thread that runs through all of this, the faintest thread, a single line you could follow with your mind if you wished, the way a swimmer follows a current without ever needing to fight it. And that thread is the thinness itself. The way the universe spreads its substance out so far, so wide, so impossibly fine, that the dark becomes less like a wall and more like water, less like a void to fear and more like a sea to float in. And you take hold of that thread now, lightly, the way you might hold the hem of a blanket as you drift toward sleep, and you let it lead you outward, past the edge of the bright island where the last stars thin into shadow, out into the in-between, where the thread goes on, never knotting, never snapping, never reaching an end, only unspooling ahead of you into the tranquil dark. And you might wonder how anything can lie in a place that holds so little, but the answer is that the dark is not measured by what fills it. The dark is measured by how far it reaches, and it reaches almost beyond measuring. It stretches across distances so wide that the light leaving one island of stars must travel for millions upon millions of years before it ever arrives at the next, crossing all that thin black sea the whole way, and as it crosses, it dims and it reddens. And it slows in your imagination to the pace of something drifting, something in no hurry to arrive, and you let your own thoughts take on that same unhurried pace, that same easy drift, each one rising faintly and then fading, like a far light glimpsed across the water and then lost again to the serene dark. And notice how the immensity of it, which might once have seemed like something to fear, has quietly turned into something to lean against. The way you lean back into a deep chair at the end of a long day. Because the very size of the dark between the galaxies is what makes it so peaceful. There is so much of it. So much room, so much open and unbroken space that nothing out there is ever crowded. Nothing is ever pressed. Nothing is ever forced close to anything else. And the galaxies themselves, those bright islands, drift through it like lamps set far apart along a shoreline you will never reach. Each one tending its own warmth, each one held at a tender distance by all that thinly spread dark, and you let yourself become one of them. A single low light drifting in the great between, unhurried, unbothered, simply present in the vastness. And the more you rest in this, the more you feel that the emptiness out there is not a lack of something, but the presence of space itself. The room that everything else needs in order to exist. The dark that lets the light stand out. The silence that lets the smallest sound be heard. And the thinness of that cosmic sea is what gives the whole universe its sense of openness, its sense of unhurried breathing. The slow expansion outward that carries every island of stars a little farther from every other with each passing age, not tearing them apart, but easing them apart, loosening them gently into more and more room, and you feel that same loosening in your own body now. Your shoulders settling lower, your hands growing heavy, your breath following that long cosmic drift outward into ease. So let the question stay open. The soft question of what lies in the dark between the galaxies, and let the answer keep arriving the way the thinnest tide keeps arriving, again and again, without ever crashing. Because what lies there is space, and stillness, and the faintest scattering of wandering atoms, and a darkness so vast and so empty that its emptiness has become a kind of comfort. An ocean drawn out so fine that it cannot hold you back, cannot weigh you down, cannot ever wash you up against any shore. And you take up the thread of that thinness once more, lightly, easily, and you follow it on into the dark, drifting, weightless, carried by a sea that has no far edge and no near one, only the long, low, endless room in which you are free to rest. And rest, and so you let your attention drift outward, past the bright spiral where you began, out beyond the last faint glimmer of the galaxy's edge, into the long dark that opens between one island of stars and the next, and you find, almost at once, that this dark is not the hard nothing you might have feared, not a wall, not an ending, but something far softer than that. A vastness so nearly empty that its very emptiness becomes a kind of welcome. The thinnest of seas spread out before you. An ocean you could drift in forever without ever reaching a shore, without ever needing to. Picture it as a sea then, because that is what it most resembles. A sea with no floor and no surface and no far coast, only water that is barely water, space that is barely full, and you, floating in the middle of it, held without being touched, carried without being moved. Out here, the universe spends almost all of itself on distance, on roominess, on the simple luxury of open space. And you can feel that openness as something restful, the way a wide and empty room feels restful at the end of a long day, the way a clean white page feels restful before a single word is written on it. And yet, even here, in what we so easily call the void, you are never quite alone. Because the gulfs between the galaxies are not truly empty at all. They are filled, in their patient, unhurried way, with the thinnest gas the cosmos knows how to make. A whisper of matter stretched so impossibly thin that it almost forgets to be there. Imagine a single ordinary room, the room where you are lying now, and imagine that across all that volume there drift only a few lone atoms, perhaps a handful, perhaps fewer, each one wandering so far from its neighbors that they may never meet, may never brush against one another in the whole long age of the universe. That is the density of the deep between the galaxies. Not crowded, not pressing, not full of anything that could weigh on you. Just a few faint travelers per room full of dark, so scattered, so sparse, that the space between them is nearly all there is, and the space is wide, and the space is kind. We try, down on the small warm world where you began, to make emptiness in our laboratories, to pump and pull every last particle out of a sealed glass chamber and call it a vacuum. And we are proud of how empty we can make it. And still our finest vacuum is a teeming city, a busy crowd, compared to the serene thinness that lies between the galaxies on its own. No machine of ours has ever made a quiet as spacious as this. The cosmos arrives at it effortlessly, simply by being large, simply by giving its scattered atoms more room than they could ever fill. And the result is not a barren place, but a clean one, swept and open and uncluttered, a hush made of distance rather than of silence. You can let that image settle into your chest now, the thought of a clarity so complete that almost nothing remains to crowd it, almost nothing left to ask anything of you. And that thinnest of gases, that faint mist strung across the dark, is not cold and lifeless the way you might expect of something so sparse. Much of it is warm, even hot, a stretched-out plasma whose every separate atom carries a low, easy heat, glowing in colors the eye cannot catch, holding the long memory of the universe's first fierce light. But because the atoms are so few and so far apart, that warmth never gathers into anything that could burn you, never collects into anything sharp. It is heat dissolved into immensity, a fever spread so thin across so much room that it becomes only the faintest warmth on the skin of space, like the lingering warmth of a sunlit floor hours after the sun has gone, like the warmth a sleeping body leaves in the sheets. You drift through it and feel only that mild, dispersed glow, a heat that has been gentled by sheer distance into something tender, something that asks nothing of you, but that you keep on drifting. Follow the thread of it now, the slender filament of gas that the cosmos has woven from galaxy to galaxy. For the deep is not a shapeless blank, but a vast and delicate web, strands of this thinnest matter strung out like wet silk across the dark, glistening with a light too faint to see, gathering the scattered atoms along their length, the way a single thread gathers beads of dew. The galaxies sit at the crossings of that web, the bright knots where the threads draw close, and between them the strands run on for distances no word can really hold, carrying their handful of atoms across the open sea. And you are a part of that weave now, one more faint traveler resting along the thread, not lost in the emptiness, but suspended within a pattern, held in a fabric so loose and so wide that there is room within it for everything. Room for every star, room for every silence, room for you. The thread does not pull you anywhere. It only holds the way water holds a swimmer who has stopped swimming. The way the dark holds the small lights without crushing them, lightly, fully, asking nothing. Feel how much spaciousness there is in being made of so little. Down where bodies are dense and full, where the air itself is a thick crowd pressing in on every side, there is always some small effort in simply taking up your place. But out here, where the universe has unfolded itself into this enormous, patient thinness, the pressure falls away to nothing, the crowding falls away, and what is left is only ease, only room. There is no jostling here, no weight of one thing against another, no edge to push against. The few warm atoms pass you at their great distances and never come close enough to touch, and you pass them. And the dark between you all is so wide that it begins to feel less like absence and more like a tremendous open generosity. A space that has been cleared and made ready. A sea so still and so vast that it can hold your whole drifting weight and never even notice, never ripple, never ask you to do anything at all but float. And if the old fear stirs in you, the small fear that whispers that emptiness must mean loneliness, that so much nothing must mean cold, let the truth of this place answer it instead. Because the thinnest of seas is also the safest, the freest, the most forgiving of all waters. Nothing out here can fall on you, because there is nothing dense enough to fall. Nothing out here can press or pierce or hurry you, because the warm gas is spread too thin and too far to gather into any force at all. The very sparseness that names this place a void is the same sparseness that makes it boundlessly, endlessly gentle, an ocean with no undertow, no reef, no shore to be dashed against. Only the long, unhurried drift from one faint atom to the next across rooms upon rooms of open dark. You could float here for an age and meet only a few lone travelers, each of them mild, each of them distant, each of them passing you with the same slow grace. So let yourself sink a little further into that thought, into the spacious thinness of the deep, the clean wide nothing that is not really nothing at all, but the most generous fullness the universe knows how to offer. A fullness made almost entirely of room. The thread of warm and scattered gas runs on ahead of you and behind you, linking everything, holding everything loosely in its luminous web, and you ride along it, weightless, unhurried, carried by a sea so vast and so nearly empty that drifting through it forever would still leave more of it untouched than touched, and there is no edge to reach, and there is no shore to find, and there is nothing here that you need to do but rest and breathe and let the immensity carry you on, slower and slower, deeper and deeper, into the warm and open dark between the lights, where the thinnest of seas goes on, and so you let yourself be carried outward, past the bright shoulders of the galaxies, into the rooms that the universe keeps mostly empty. And you find that these rooms are larger than anything you have ever held in your mind, larger than the distance light can travel in 100 million years, larger than counting can follow, and yet you are not afraid of their size, because their size is only the size of openness, only the measure of how much room there is for you to breathe. You drift now through what the astronomers call a void, one of the great bubbles of near nothing that make up most of the cosmos. And the word void sounds heavy when you read it, sounds like absence, like a hole, like something missing. But out here, it is nothing of the kind. Out here, the void is simply space that has been given permission to stay open, to stay unhurried, to spread itself wide without crowding. And as you move through it, you understand that emptiness and openness are the same thing seen from two different feelings, and you choose to feel the open one. This is the thinnest of seas, the dark between the galaxies, so nearly empty that it has softened into a kind of tenderness, an ocean with no floor and no surface and no far shore. An ocean you could drift in forever and never once bump against anything hard. And you do drift, slow and weightless, your breath rising and falling in the long rhythm of the tide that has no water. And the more of this near nothing you pass through, the more held you feel, as though the very thinness of it were a hand cupped beneath you, as though so much room could only ever mean so much welcome. There is a thread that runs through all of this, a single filament of attention that connects the bright places to one another and to you, and you can feel it now, faint and steady, the slenderest line of awareness drawn taut across the dark, and you follow it the way a swimmer follows a rope laid through deep water, not pulling, not climbing, only letting it remind you that you are part of the weave, that even here, you are stitched into the larger cloth. Travelers who have imagined coming this far have wondered what they would see, and the answer is almost gentle in its simplicity. Very little, and that little soft. There is a place in the constellation of the herdsman, a region the old star charts call boats, where the universe opens into one of the emptiest rooms ever found, a hollow so wide that hundreds of millions of light years stretch across it with only the faintest scattering of galaxies inside. And if you were to stand at its center and look outward in every direction, you might believe the universe itself had grown quiet around you. Might believe you had been given a whole hemisphere of darkness to yourself, a private and serene immensity. People sometimes say that a voyager lost in the heart of that great hollow could travel a lifetime and think the cosmos nearly bare, and they say it as though it were a lonely thought, but feel it instead as a spacious one. Feel how much stillness you would be wrapped in, how few demands the universe would make of you there, how you could simply float and rest and let the slow hours pass without a single thing required of you. For the emptiness is never quite total, and that is part of its tenderness. Even in the most hollow of these rooms, even in the deepest reach of boats, a few galaxies hang scattered like lanterns set very far apart on a vast dark water, and each one of them is a whole turning city of suns, and the spaces between them are so generous that the lanterns seem to drift rather than burn. You pass one, very far off, a soft smudge of light no bigger than a breath against the black, and then nothing, and then nothing, and then, after what would be ages, another. And the long patience of these distances does not weary you, it loosens you. It teaches your body the unhurried pace of the cosmos, the easy tempo of a place that has all the time there is and spends none of it in a rush. You let your shoulders fall into that tempo. You let your jaw soften into that tempo. You let the long muscles of your back unspool along that tempo, vertebra by vertebra, until your whole frame is drifting at the speed of the void, which is to say no speed at all, which is to say the speed of rest. And here is the truer shape of the thing, the shape the astronomers slowly uncovered. These voids are not random pockets of accident. They are the wide chambers of a single vast architecture. For all the galaxies of the cosmos are not sprinkled evenly, but gathered onto immense sheets and drawn out into long luminous threads. And between those threads the voids open up like the hollows inside a honeycomb, like the dark spaces held inside a froth of sea foam. like the rooms inside a sponge through which water moves without resistance. The whole universe, seen from far enough away, is a web, a tracery of glowing filaments strung across the deep, and the voids are simply the breathing room between the strands, the places where the web opens its hands. And there it is again, your thread. Your own slender filament running through the dark, and you understand now that it is no different in kind from the great cosmic threads that hold the galaxies in their long rows, that the line of attention you have been following is a smaller echo of the largest pattern there is, and that to drift in the void is not to be cast out of the weave, but to rest inside one of its open rooms, cradled by the very structure of everything. So you let the immensity stop being a frightening word. You let it become instead the feeling of a window thrown wide in a warm house. The feeling of stepping outdoors after a long day inside. The feeling of more air than your lungs could ever need. All of it freely given, none of it demanding to be filled. The voids do not want anything from you. They do not press in. They are the universe exhaling and leaving the breath out long, holding that low and open hush across distances no heart could measure, and you are exhaling with them. Your own breath leaving slow and unforced, your own chest sinking into the same wide pause. There is so much room here that nothing can crowd you, nothing can hurry you, nothing can reach across the great hollow quickly enough to disturb your rest, and the distances that might once have seemed cold to you reveal themselves now as the kindest insulation there is. A hush so thick it could not be broken. A serenity built into the bones of space itself. You drift on through the thinnest of seas, and the lanterns grow sparser still, and you do not mind. You welcome it. You sink deeper into the spaciousness, the way a body sinks into deep and yielding water, supported on every side by something so faint it is almost nothing, and yet somehow holds you completely. And the thread is still there, you can feel it, the tender line that keeps you connected to all the bright far places, even as you rest in the dark between them, and you let it lie slack across your fingers, not gripping, only knowing it is there, only trusting that the weave goes on holding its shape whether you tend it or not. The void breathes. You breathe. The galaxies hang their lanterns at the unreachable edges of this room, far enough away to be peaceful, near enough to remind you that you are not truly alone in all this openness, only beautifully, restfully apart, drifting in a vastness that has become, the longer you float in it, indistinguishable from being held, and still the sea stretches onward, thin and dark and endless, with no shore anywhere ahead of you, and no need, none at all, to ever find one. And so the dark you are drifting through is not the simple nothing you once imagined, not a flat black wall hung behind the stars, but something shaped, something patterned, something that has been arranging itself slowly across all of time. Picture the space between the galaxies as the thinnest of seas, a vastness so nearly empty that its emptiness softens into welcome. An ocean you could float in for 1,000 years without ever brushing a single shore. And yet, this sea is not without form. It has currents. It has the long, low swells of its own deep architecture. Run your awareness through it the way you might let a hand trail through warm water from the side of a drifting boat. And you begin to feel that the dark is woven, that it is threaded, that it has been spun into a structure you could almost trace with the tips of your fingers. Far out in this between, matter does not scatter at random. Over unimaginable stretches of slow gravity, the galaxies have been drawn into vast strands, into glowing filaments that stretch across the dark, like the threads of an enormous net cast once and left to settle forever. Each thread is a road of faint light, a seam where galaxy after galaxy hangs like a bead. And these threads cross and braid and gather, and where they gather most thickly the great clusters bloom. This is the cosmic web, and you are inside it now, suspended in one of its quiet reaches, held in the same patient lattice that holds everything. The thread of your own attention, fine and luminous, belongs to the same weaving. You are not adrift against the pattern, you are one more strand of it, resting where you were always meant to rest. Let yourself feel the shape of the web more fully, slowly, with no need to hurry. Between the bright filaments lie the sheets, the broad and gentle membranes where matter thins to a haze, wide, tranquil plains that drape through the dark like silk laid over the surface of the thinnest sea. And cupped within these sheets and threads are the voids, the great hollow rooms of the universe, immense and serene, and almost perfectly empty. You might hear the word void and feel a small flinch, a sense of falling, a fear of the floor giving way. Let that go. A void out here is not a pit and not a danger. It is simply the most spacious chamber that exists. A vast and rounded openness where the sea grows so thin it is nearly all peace. Where you could expand and breathe and stretch your whole self wide and still touch nothing, ask nothing, owe nothing. The void is not the absence of a shore. It is the part of the ocean so deep and so wide that the very idea of shore dissolves into rest. And here is the tender truth woven through it all. The shores of this between are made of shadow, not of stone. When you drift toward the edge of a void, you do not strike a wall. You feel only a slow thickening, a faint gathering of the faintest light, the threshold where one hollow room opens onto the seam of a filament. These are the coastlines of the dark, soft borders that no body could ever bruise against, harbors of shadow that hold you without ever closing around you. You move from the open void toward the woven thread and back again, carried by the most patient of currents, and at no moment is there anything to fear, because there is nothing here that can press upon you, nothing that can ask you to arrive. The thinnest sea has tides, and its tides are kind, and they ask nothing of you but that you keep drifting. Feel now how the filaments curve around you, three-dimensional, alive with slow motion. You are too small and too peaceful to perceive directly, and yet you sense it the way you sense a current beneath a still surface. Along each thread, thin streams of gas drift inward, sliding down the seam toward the bright knots where galaxies cluster, the way water finds the low places in a valley and pools there. You are riding one of those slow streams now, easing along the unseen channel, your breath matching its faint and endless flow. With each breath in, you draw a little of the dark sea into yourself. With each breath out, you give yourself back to it. There is no membrane between you and the between. You belong to the same thinness, the same vast and welcoming sparseness, the same threaded ocean that has been drifting since long before there was anyone to call it dark. The numbers behind this would frighten the waking mind, and so let them arrive softened, translated into the body, made into sensation rather than scale. The voids are so wide that light itself, the fastest traveler there is, would need tens of millions of years to cross even one of them. And yet you feel that not as a terror of distance, but as the deepest comfort of room. An openness so generous that nothing could ever crowd you. An immensity that exists only to give you space to rest. The filaments are so long, they would take your imagination centuries to walk. And yet they hold their galaxies as loosely as a net holds water, every bead of light free and unhurried and held all at once. This is what the architecture of the dark is for. It is not built to trap. It is built to cradle. The whole between is a structure whose only purpose, as far as your drifting self can tell, is to make a place soft enough and wide enough for you to let go. Notice that even the emptiest void is not truly empty. Through every hollow room there drifts a whisper of gas thinner than the finest mist, a few lone atoms in spaces where a city of nothing could stand. And there runs a low warmth too, a faint background glow left over from the very beginning, a heat so even and so hushed that it touches every corner of the dark with the same patient tenderness. You are bathed in it now. That ancient warmth surrounds you, the oldest light there is, smoothed by time into a serene and even hum, the lullaby the universe has been singing to itself since before the first star. It does not flicker. It does not fade. It simply holds, the way the thinnest sea holds a drifting body, the way a thread holds a single fold of cloth, without strain, without effort, without end. Let your attention sink a little deeper into the weave. Imagine the whole web from far outside, though no one ever truly stands outside it, a glimmering lattice of threads and sheets and hollows, vast beyond telling, and yet somehow looking less like a machine and more like foam, like the slow drift of bubbles in dark water, like lace, like something grown rather than built. That softness is not a trick of the eye. The between really is more like an ocean than a wall, more like a current than a cage, more like breath than stone. And you, threading your way through it, are a small bright filament of awareness, moving along the larger filaments of the world, your quiet drift echoing the drift of everything, your slow descent toward sleep mirroring the slow descent of gas along the seams of the cosmic web, all of it falling gently inward, all of it finding its low and restful place. So keep drifting. Let the void open beneath you and around you and above you, that great peaceful room with its shores of shadow, and feel how you do not fall through it so much as float within it, suspended in the thinnest of seas, held by a structure too vast and too tender ever to let you go, and too open ever to hold you tight. The thread runs on ahead of you, faint and luminous, tracing the long seam of the dark towards somewhere even softer, even slower, even more deeply still. And there is no need to follow it with effort, no need to swim, no need to reach. The current already knows the way. The web already cradles you. The sea is already carrying you, thread by thread, hollow by hollow, breath by slow and easy breath, further and further into the welcoming dark, where and so you drift on, weightless in the wide between, where the galaxies hang like lanterns set far apart across the thinnest of seas, a sea so nearly empty that its emptiness turns to kindness. An ocean without a floor and without a far edge, an ocean you could float through forever and never once bump against a shore. And as you drift, something is holding you. You cannot see it. You cannot reach out and feel its surface. You cannot name its color. You cannot trace its shape against the dark. And yet it is here. The way the warmth of a room is here before you open your eyes. The way the depth of water is here beneath a sleeping body that has stopped trying to swim. The astronomers gave it a plain and modest name, dark matter. And the word dark might sound like something to fear. But it is not a shadow, and it is not a hollow. It is simply the part of the universe that does not glow, the part that keeps no light for itself, the part that works without ever needing to be seen. Think of it this way, slowly, with no effort at all. Everything you can see in the night sky, every star, every drifting smear of a far galaxy, every coil of glowing gas, all of it together is only a thin skin over something far larger and far quieter. For each handful of shining matter there is roughly 5 times as much of this unseen presence, spread through the dark, patient, unhurried, asking nothing. It does not burn. It does not flicker. It passes through the bright stuff, and through you, and through the whole sweep of the earth, as easily as a low tide moves through an open net, and it leaves no mark, no heat, no sound, only the faint and steady pull of its gravity, the one whisper it ever makes. And that whisper is the whole reason the night has a shape at all. Because long ago, when the cosmos was young and almost perfectly smooth, the visible gas had no scaffolding to climb, nowhere to gather, no hollow to settle into. It was this invisible matter that moved first, drawing together in the dark, pooling in slow, vast basins, sketching out an immense and tranquil architecture across the emptiness, a web of ridges and hollows and long bridging filaments. And only then did the ordinary gas, the stuff that would one day become stars and worlds, and the carbon in your own resting hands, come sliding down those unseen slopes, gathering where the hidden pull was deepest, like rain finding the valleys of a land it cannot see. So every galaxy that hangs above you tonight is sitting in a cradle, a soft basin of invisible matter, a deep and silent hollow that caught it long before it could glow, and holds it even now, and will go on holding it long after you have fallen asleep. The lantern you see is small, the cradle around it is enormous, and serene, and entirely safe. You can feel the truth of this in the way things move. A galaxy spins, and by every plane accounting it spins too fast, fast enough that its outer stars should have flung themselves loose ages ago, scattered into the between like sparks off a wheel. And yet they stay. They turn, and keep their patient orbits, held by a grip far stronger than their own light can explain. That grip is the unseen presence, the tide you only know by the way things drift, the hand under the water that you never glimpse but can always trust. You do not need to see what holds the stars in their slow circles, any more than you need to watch your own heart to know that it is beating, faithfully, without your asking, even now as your breath grows long and low. So let the word invisible become a comfort instead of a question. The dark matter is not absence. It is the opposite of absence. It is the most abundant thing there is, the great quiet majority of everything, and it spends all of its being doing one tender task, gathering, holding, keeping the loose things from wandering away into the night. It is the reason the thinnest of seas is not merely empty, but gently strung together, threaded through with invisible currents, so that even in the deepest dark between the galaxies there is a structure cupping you, an unseen lattice carrying the light from island to island. You are not adrift in a void. You are adrift in a held thing, a woven thing, an ocean that has a shape you cannot touch and a depth you cannot fall out of. Picture the whole of it from far away now, the way a slow eye lets the night settle. The galaxies are not scattered like dropped grain. They lie along faint, shining strands, gathered into clusters where the strands cross, strung out along the great filaments of the cosmic web. And every one of those strands is the bright echo of a deeper one beneath it, a ridge of hidden matter laid down in the early dark. The shining web you can almost see is only the foam riding on a vaster, calmer current you cannot. And between the strands lie the immense hushed basins where almost nothing is, the open reaches of the thinnest of seas, so wide and so empty that emptiness itself softens into peace. Nothing rushes there. Nothing collides. There is room, endless room, the most forgiving spaciousness the mind can hold, and through all of it, the invisible tide keeps moving, slow and sure, asking nothing of you but that you let yourself be carried. And you are being carried, right now, in more ways than you can count. The little group of galaxies that holds your own is sliding through the between, drawn along by distant gatherings of unseen mass, vast tranquil pulls reaching across distances too large for fear to follow. You are riding a current you will never feel, toward gatherings you will never reach, and there is nothing in this to trouble you, because the motion is patient beyond all hurry. The drift of leaves on the surface of a wide, warm river, the long, slow tide that moves a sleeping body it has decided to keep. Everything that holds you means you well. Everything that pulls you is gentle. The whole invisible scaffolding of the cosmos is, in its silent way, on your side, leaning always toward gathering rather than scattering, toward holding rather than letting go. Let that settle into the body. The same unseen presence that cradles the galaxies also threads through the chair or the bed beneath you, through the floor, through the rock and iron deep below, passing soundlessly, leaving you whole, leaving you held. It does not press on you, it does not weigh, it only adds its faint, steady pull to the great gathering, the same pull that keeps the earth turning calm around its star, that keeps that star riding easy in the broad arm of its galaxy, that keeps the galaxy nested in its deep, invisible basin among the others. Layer upon layer, cradle within cradle, each one larger and quieter than the last, all the way out to the thinnest of seas, and at every layer the message is the same low reassuring word repeated through the whole structure of things: held, held, held. So if some part of you ever flinched at the words dark and between and empty, let that part rest now. The dark is only the light that does not shine, busy and abundant and kind. The between is only the wide forgiving room where nothing crowds you. The emptiness is only an ocean so vast it has become a softness, an ocean threaded through with invisible care, an ocean you could drift in for all of time without ever striking ashore or coming to harm. You float, and the unseen tide moves under you, and the hidden web holds steady all around, and far off the lanterns of the galaxies glow on in their deep, safe cradles, each one kept exactly where it belongs by a presence that asks for nothing and never lets go. There is nowhere you can drift that is not already held. There is no dark here that is not, underneath, a kind of keeping, and the keeping goes on whether you watch it or not. So you need not watch it, you need only drift, and breathe, and let the slow tide carry you on, deeper into the wide and tender between, and for the longest time, no one knew what filled this thinnest of seas. No one could say whether the dark between the galaxies was truly empty or only seemed so. Because emptiness, real emptiness, is not a thing the eye can rest upon. It gives back no light. It offers no edge. And so the space between the islands of stars stayed a question, a held breath, a page no one had yet learned to read. You drift there now in your imagining, in that ocean so nearly empty it becomes a kind of tenderness, and you might suppose that to map it we would need to go there, to send something out and wait. But the truth is slower and lovelier than that. The truth is that we learned to read the dark without ever leaving home, by sitting very still and letting the light come to us, by becoming patient enough to listen to messages that had been traveling for billions of years before we were born to receive them. Picture a quasar, far away, almost unthinkably far. The bright and steady heart of a young galaxy pouring out light. A lantern hung at the very back of the visible universe. And that light sets out across the thinnest of seas toward us, crossing distances so wide that the journey itself is a slow tide measured not in miles, but in ages. And as it travels, it passes through everything that lies between, through clouds you could never see, through veils of hydrogen so faint and so spread out that they are thinner than the best vacuum any laboratory has ever made, thinner than a whisper of breath in a vast and tranquil room. These clouds do not glow. They make no sign of themselves to a watching eye. But they are there, drifting in the dark like soft banks of fog over a still water, and when the lantern light of the quasar passes through them, something quiet happens, something the gas cannot help but do. For hydrogen, you see, is particular about light. It reaches out and drinks a single precise color, one exact note out of the whole flowing chord of the quasar's glow, a deep blue-violet note that astronomers call Lyman alpha. And wherever a cloud of hydrogen sits in the path, it sips away that one note and lets all the rest stream past. So the light arrives at our telescopes not quite whole, carrying a thin dark gap where the cloud took its drink, and that gap is a footprint, a single clean print pressed into snow, telling us that something passed this way, that something stood here in the dark, even though we will never see the thing itself, only the trace of where it touched the light. You can feel how serene a discovery that is, how unhurried, like noticing in the morning the prints of a fox across new snow, and knowing, without ever having watched it walk, that the night was full of soft and living movement while you slept. And here is the part that takes the breath so slowly, so easily out of you. There is never only one cloud. The light of a distant quasar crosses not a single bank of hydrogen, but hundreds of them, thousands of them, cloud after cloud after cloud, strung out along the whole immense reach of the thinnest sea, each one at its own distance, each one drifting at its own pace. And because the universe is expanding, because everything is slowly carried away from everything else, each cloud takes its drink of light at a color shifted a little from the last. So the single dark footprint becomes many, a long procession of dark lines marching down through the colors of the quasar's light, close together and crowded, line after faint line. And when astronomers first spread that light out and saw them all, they called it a forest, the Lyman alpha forest, because that is exactly what it looks like. A stand of slender, dark trees, trunk beside trunk beside trunk, each one a cloud, each one a place in the dark where invisible gas reached out and left its mark. Let that image hold you a moment. A forest made entirely of light's small absences, a wood you walk through by reading, every tree a cloud that no eye will ever see, every shadow a gentle proof that the great dark is not empty after all, but quietly, patiently full. It was not a sudden thing, this learning, and that is part of its peace. It came the way understanding usually comes, slowly in faint increments, a little more each year as the instruments grew finer and the patience grew deeper. For a long while the lines were just curiosities, smudges in the spectra of strange bright objects no one fully understood. Then, decade by decade, the picture settled, the forest came into focus, and people realized that what they were reading was nothing less than the hidden skeleton of the cosmos, the diffuse web of gas that lies strung between the galaxies, the faint material out of which galaxies themselves are slowly fed. The thinnest of seas, it turned out, was not formless. It had structure, soft and vast, sheets and filaments, and tide lines of hydrogen draped across the dark. And we had been swimming in our ignorance of it, not because it was truly absent, but only because it was so quiet, so unwilling to shine, that we had to learn an entirely tender new way of seeing, a way that watches not for light, but for the careful places where light goes missing. There is a lovely reversal in that, and you can let it settle over you like a low, warm tide. We are so used to finding things by their brightness, by what they send out, by what announces itself, and yet the whole invisible architecture of the between spaces revealed itself instead through absence, through the small dark notes a passing beam left behind. The clouds speak only by what they take, and what they take is gentle. A single sip from a river of light wide enough that it never even notices the loss. Nothing is consumed. Nothing is harmed. The quasar shines on across the ages exactly as before, and yet pressed into its light forever is the faint, faithful record of every soft bank of gas it ever drifted through. A long, quiet diary of a journey across the thinnest sea, written in footprints, kept for us, delivered at last to a telescope on a small blue world by beings patient enough to read it. And so you can lie here and know that the dark you are drifting through has been gently surveyed, that the ocean so nearly empty it feels like kindness has been quietly charted by people who never raised their voices, who only sat in domes on dark mountains, watching ancient light arrive, tracing the slender trees of the forest one faint line at a time. They were reading footprints in snow, all of them, every astronomer who ever leaned into that work, following the soft tracks of clouds across distances no body could ever cross, learning the shape of the unseen by the marks it left on the scene. There is no fear in it. There is only the slow satisfaction of a thing patiently understood. The hush of a question that took 100 years to answer, and was answered in the end not by force, but by attention, by stillness, by the willingness to wait for the light. You feel, perhaps, how much of this is like falling asleep, how the deepest knowing comes not from grasping, but from receiving, from letting the far-traveled light arrive on its own slow tide and reveal, without effort, what was always there. The forest of faint lines is still being read, even now, even tonight. More lanterns found, more footprints traced, the map of the thinnest sea filling in a little further with each patient season, and none of it asks anything of you. It only continues, low and unhurried, an unveiling with no end and no urgency. The dark between the galaxies, giving up its soft secrets to anyone willing to be still enough, slow enough, easy enough to listen, while the gas drifts on in its sheets and filaments, harmless, serene, holding the light's small absences like footprints kept in snow. And you drift with it, deeper now, carried on that ocean you could float upon forever, without ever once needing to touch a shore. And still the light keeps coming, and still there is more to read, and out there, past the bright, crowded rim of any galaxy you could name, the stars begin to thin. The way voices thin at the edge of a room you are leaving, softer and softer, until there is only the warm memory of them, and in that thinning, you find the orphan stars, the wanderers who long ago slipped free of the spiral arms that made them, drifting now in the great open water between the islands of light. You may have heard them called outcasts, cast out, torn loose, and those are restless words, words with hands that grip. But nothing tore here the way tearing happens to you. Nothing was wounded. Nothing cried out. For a star that leaves its galaxy simply keeps going the way a swimmer who lets go of the wall keeps gliding, carried by the same slow breath that set it moving, needing nothing more to hold it. Picture one such star now, a single low ember of light suspended in the wide dark, neither falling nor climbing, only drifting, and let yourself drift beside it, weightless, unhurried, your breathing matching its long, unbroken float. The space it moves through is the thinnest of seas, an ocean so nearly empty that the emptiness itself becomes a kind of tenderness, a smoothness with no rocks to bruise against, no shore to be flung upon, no current sharp enough to startle. Between galaxies the matter spreads so faint that you might cross the breadth of a hand and meet only a single atom, a lone whisper of hydrogen turning in the hush. And so the wandering star has all the room it could ever want. Room without walls, room that does not end. And far from being lonely, this is the most spacious peace there is. The freedom of a body that will never collide, never crowd, never be jostled awake. Think of how rarely you are given true room, how often the day presses close, and then feel this instead, the easy roominess of the deep between, where a star can travel 1,000 lifetimes and never so much as brush a neighbor, drifting the way you are learning to drift now, loosely, fully, without one muscle braced for impact. These wanderers were not always alone, and even alone they are not quite solitary, for the same long thread that binds the bright galaxies binds the lost stars too, the invisible weave of gravity that runs unseen through everything, a thread you cannot snap because it was never a rope, only a leaning, a faint and patient pull that asks for nothing and lets go of nothing. When two galaxies pass near each other in the slow ballet of the cluster, drawing close over spans of time so vast that the word collision becomes too quick a word, they reach toward one another along that thread, and in the long, gentle stretching some of their stars are drawn out into bridges and streams of light, ribbons of suns combed into the dark. And a few of those suns simply keep coasting outward, set free into the open, with the momentum of that ancient embrace still carrying them. So the wanderer was launched not by violence, but by a kind of tenderness between giants, handed gently outward, and the thread that released it is the very thread that still holds it, loosely, in the larger weave of all that is. And here is the part that turns the loneliness inside out, that takes the lonely-sounding fact and lets it settle into something serene. For these scattered wanderers, each one seemingly adrift and apart, are in truth all glowing at once, all shining their faint, separate light into the same great basin of the dark, and their light pools together. Astronomers have a name for the soft sheen this makes, the intracluster light, the diffuse glow of countless homeless stars spread through the gulf between galaxies, too faint for any single one to be seen, yet together, casting a low, luminous haze across the whole vast bowl of the cluster. A glow so subtle, it took us ages even to notice it was there. Imagine that, a light made entirely of the lonely ones, a brightness woven from solitude. Every orphan star a small lantern held up in the wide dark, and though no lantern can see the others, though each floats alone in its own quiet pool of space, their lights reach out along the same thread of distance, and meet and mingle, and become a single tender radiance that fills the in-between. You are never as alone as you fear, the glow seems to say, for even what is scattered shines together, even what drifts apart belongs to one soft light. Let that settle into you, the way warmth settles into a sleeping body. Each wandering star is a small lantern at peace, asking nothing, fleeing nothing, simply burning its faint, steady flame in the enormous room of the between and around it. Unseen, 1,000,000 others do the same, And the dark is not empty after all, but softly lit, the way a vast still water at dusk is lit, holding a low shine on its skin that comes from everywhere and nowhere. You could drift in this forever and never touch a shore, and that is not a thing to fear. That is the whole gift of it, an ocean without edges, a water without floor. A sea so wide that there is no falling in it, only floating, only being held by the very vastness that once might have seemed cold to you. Feel how the body loosens when it understands there is nothing to grasp, nothing to reach, nowhere it must arrive. How the shoulders ease down, how the hands open, how the long muscles of the back let go their holding the way the wanderer long ago let go the spiral arm, and keep gliding, carried. Out here, the light from those distant lanterns takes a very long time to cross to you, slow and patient, and so to look into the gulf is to look into a tender past, to see the soft glow as it was when it set out, unhurried, in no rush to reach you, content to take the eons. There is no clock in the between. A wandering star marks no hours, keeps no appointments, owes no arrival, and in this it is the truest teacher of rest, for it shows you a way of being that asks for nothing and lacks for nothing, a way of moving that is indistinguishable from stillness, a glide so smooth and so endless that motion and rest become the same word. You are moving like that now, even lying here, carried on the turning of the world carried on its long fall around the sun. The sun drifting in its own slow arc through the galaxy, all of it floating in the thinnest of seas, all of it part of the same wide ocean you could drift in forever, never touching a shore, never needing one. The thread that holds the wandering stars holds you too, that faint, patient leaning of everything toward everything, and it does not pull you anywhere you do not wish to go. It only keeps you from being truly lost. It only makes sure that however far you drift, you remain woven into the whole soft glowing weave. So follow one lantern now into the deep, the single low ember you chose at the start, and let it lead you outward where the galaxies fall away behind like distant harbor lights, smaller, dimmer, kinder, until there is only the open water and the diffuse glow of all the wanderers and the long unhurried float. Notice that nothing here is sharp, nothing here is sudden. The dark does not press, the cold does not bite, the distance does not frighten, for you have learned to read this immensity as room, this emptiness as tenderness, this solitude as a light that scattered souls make together. Breathe slow and low. Let the lantern drift. Let yourself drift with it, a small warm light among countless small warm lights, each one at peace in the wide dark, each one held by the same invisible thread, each one shining its tender share into the soft, enormous sea that has no shore and asks for none. And the further you go, the lighter you become. The lighter you become, the deeper you sink into the float. And still the between opens before you, patient, luminous, endless. And still there is more of it, more room, more glow, more slow, sweet drifting, and so you let yourself go further out, past the last bright fringe of stars you knew, into the open country, where the galaxies thin and scatter and finally fall away behind you. And you notice how nothing pulls at you here, how nothing grips your sleeve or asks you to stay, how the dark simply opens and opens like water parting for a body that weighs almost nothing at all. You are drifting now in the space between galaxies, and the nearest of them has shrunk to a faint smudge of light, low in your vision, a small smear of warmth, no bigger than a candle seen across a wide field, and there is another smudge behind you, and another to your left, and another beneath your feet if you still think of having feet, each one tender and distant, each one a far-off lamp left burning in a house you will never need to return to. There is no floor here, and no ceiling, no wall to press your hand against. And instead of frightening you, this absence holds you the way deep water holds a swimmer who has stopped struggling, the way the thinnest of seas carries everything it touches without ever asking it to swim. You think the void should feel like falling, but it does not feel like falling. It feels like floating after the falling has been forgotten, like the long, weightless hush at the top of a breath before it turns and begins to come back down. Let the science settle softly over you, because the truth of this place is more restful than any story. The space between galaxies is the emptiest emptiness there is, so vast and so thinly furnished that you could travel for the length of a human life through it and pass perhaps a single atom of hydrogen drifting alone, one lost traveler in a hall too large to measure. And that atom would not notice you, and you would not notice it, and the not noticing would be a kind of mercy, a way the universe has of leaving you undisturbed. This is the thinnest of seas, an ocean so nearly empty that its very emptiness becomes a tenderness, a vastness so unhurried it forgets how to be sharp, and you are drifting in it now with nothing to hold and nothing that holds you back. Only the slow slipping past of a sea that asks for nothing. Where water would push against your skin, this thin sea slides by without resistance, without friction, without the faintest drag, so that your drift never slows and never tires, and you understand, somewhere below thought, that you could go on like this forever and never strike a shore, never bruise yourself against a coast, never reach the cold edge you half expected to find. Feel how your body loosens into this. The shoulders that carried the day let down their long-held weight, the jaw unlocks, the hands open like petals giving up a flower's careful shape, and the breath you breathe out here has nowhere to hurry to, no air to fill, no lungs that strain, only the easy rhythm you bring with you, slow and low and your own. Out here, the idea of distance stops meaning anything heavy. A million years of light might lie between you and the smudge ahead, and yet the number does not press on you. It lifts instead, the way a high ceiling lifts a quiet room, the way a wide horizon makes the chest feel roomier rather than smaller. The immensity is not a threat looming over you, but a vast soft hammock slung between the far galaxies, and you are the small warm thing it cradles, rocked by a current too faint to feel, carried by a sea too thin to touch. You are being carried. You do not have to paddle. You do not have to steer. The drift does the work of moving you, and your only task, if it can be called a task, is to keep on letting go. And notice, as you drift, how the dark itself is not the absence you were taught to fear. It is not a hole or a nothing or a mouth waiting to close. It is simply room, the most generous room imaginable, an open hall with no doors because it has no need of them, no walls because there is nothing it must keep out. The black around you is the color of rest, the color behind your own closed eyes, the color the world becomes when you finally stop looking and let yourself sink towards sleep. You move through it, and it parts for you, and closes again behind you without a sound. The way a calm tide folds over the place where a swimmer slipped under, smoothing the surface, leaving no mark, keeping no record of the passing. Nothing here keeps a record of you. Nothing here measures whether you stay or go. You are free in the oldest sense of the word, free the way a single feather is free on a windless evening, drifting down through air so still it seems to have stopped, taking all the time in the world to reach a ground it is in no hurry to find. Far ahead, one of those faint smudges brightens by the smallest degree, and you let the current draw you toward it without effort, without choosing. The way a leaf on a slow river is drawn around a bend it never had to decide upon, you begin to make out, in that distant blur, the faintest grain of separate lights. The suggestion of a billion suns gathered together for warmth, the way a town's windows gather in the blue hour. And you understand that even there, even in that bright far island, the spaces between the stars are mostly the same hushed dark you are floating in now. The same thin sea reaching its long fingers in among the suns, holding them apart so that they never crowd, never collide, never have to touch. The dark is not what separates the galaxies from each other so much as what connects them. The same single ocean lapping at every shore, so that to drift here, between them all, is to be held in the part of the universe that touches everything at once. The wide between place that belongs to no one and so belongs, for this long quiet while, to you. Your breathing has gone slower without your asking it to. The in-breath is a tide coming up the beach. The out-breath is the same tide sliding back, unhurried, certain it will return. There is no rush in tides, and there is no rush in you, and the thin sea around you keeps its own ancient, unhurried pace, neither faster nor slower than your blood, so that after a while you cannot quite tell where your pulse ends and the slow swell of the void begins. You are not separate from the drift anymore. You are part of the carrying, a small warm current inside the larger one, threaded through the vastness the way a single fiber is threaded through a vast soft cloth, belonging to the weave, held by the weave, going wherever the gentle pull of the whole decides to take you. And the cloth is endless. There is always more of it ahead, more dark sea, more open room, more faint and friendly lamps burning low across the unmeasured distance, more of the long forgiving drift that never tires and never ends. You let your eyes, if you still imagine eyes, drift half closed. You let the smudges of the galaxies blur further until they are only the softest hints of light at the corners of an enormous, restful dark. There is nothing to reach for. There is nothing to do. The thinnest of seas has you, carries you, slips past you without resistance, and asks nothing in return. And you sink a little deeper into its keeping, a little further into the warm, endless drift, knowing that whatever lies further out is only more of this same kindness, only more open water with no cold edge anywhere in it, only the long, slow current bearing you onward through a vastness that has all this time been quietly holding you safe. And so you let the number arrive slowly, the way starlight arrives, unhurried, having traveled longer than you can hold in your hands. And the number is this. In the dark between the galaxies, you might cross a stretch of space the width of 1,000 suns and meet, in all that distance, perhaps a single atom, one lone particle drifting where nothing else is, and your first thought might be that such a place is empty. That emptiness means absence. That absence means you would be alone there. But stay with it a moment longer. Let the meaning loosen. Because what looks like nothing is really only roominess, the most generous spaciousness there is, a vastness so unhurried that it has made space for everything and rushed nothing. The dark between the galaxies is the thinnest of seas, an ocean stretched so wide and so fine that it becomes a kind of tenderness, water you could drift through forever without ever reaching a shore, and there is no fear in shorelessness here, only the deep ease of knowing you do not have to arrive. You are not lost in this sea. You are held by how much of it there is, Think of how a single drop of dye behaves in a still pond, blooming, thinning, spreading until it can no longer be found, not destroyed, but given to the whole of the water. And that is what matter does in the great between. It spreads itself so thin that it nearly disappears into pure room. And you are invited to do the same. To let the tightness in your shoulders thin and bloom and spread until it cannot be found. Until it has been given, drop by drop, to the wide dark that asks nothing back. The intergalactic void is not a wall and not a hole. It is a chamber. A vast tranquil room with no corners and no ceiling. And the strange comfort of it is that a room this enormous can hold you without ever pressing against you, can surround you on every side and still leave you entirely free, the way warm water surrounds a swimmer who has stopped swimming, buoyant, weightless, going nowhere, and perfectly content to go nowhere. You have been taught to read distance as separation, to feel that the farther things lie apart, the more abandoned they must be. But the cosmos does not keep that arithmetic, for the galaxies are not estranged by the dark between them, they are connected through it, threaded one to another by the faintest filaments of gas, by lanes of hydrogen so diffuse you could pass your whole body through them and feel only the hush of nothing. And yet these threads are real. They are the slow webbing that ties the bright islands together across the deep, a quiet lacework spanning distances that have no words. Picture that webbing now. Picture the universe not as scattered lamps in a black field, but as a single fabric. Every galaxy a knot of light. Every dark mile between them a length of thread drawn taut and serene, holding the whole cloth in its place. And let yourself rest into the truth that you are a knot in that same fabric, that the thread runs through you too, that the spaces inside you and the spaces between the stars are woven of the same unhurried weave, and the dark itself, the color of it, is not the dark of a shut door or a sealed eye, but the soft completeness of a room where the lamp has just been lowered, where the edges of things go tender and the urgency of seeing dissolves, where you no longer have to track or watch or guard, because there is nothing here that means you harm, and nothing here in a hurry. Out in the deep between, the temperature settles toward the lowest hush the universe knows, only a few degrees above the place where motion itself grows slow and easy, and in that low patient cold the few atoms there drift without colliding, without striving, each one wandering its own enormous solitude, and yet not one of them is lonely. Because loneliness is a feeling, and this is only spaciousness, the kind that does not ache, the kind that simply makes room. You can borrow that. You can let your own restless particles slow toward that hush. Let the racing in you cool by degrees, until your thoughts drift far apart from one another like those scattered atoms, too distant now to collide, too unhurried now to spark, each one wandering off into the dark, with nothing left to prove. There is a mercy in how thin this sea is, because thinness is what makes it kind. A dense ocean would crush, would press, would drag you under with its weight, but this ocean is so faint that it cannot hold you down, it can only hold you up, and you float in it the way a thought floats just before sleep, half-formed, unbothered, slipping. Drift here and nothing pulls at you. No current insists, no tide demands. There is only the long, low buoyancy of a place too vast to push and too peaceful to pull. And you understand at last that the immensity you once found frightening is the very thing that keeps you safe. Because nothing immense is in a rush. Nothing this large needs anything from you. The bigness is not a hunger. The bigness is a blanket. Let it settle over you now, this blanket woven from the widest dark and feel how a thing can be unimaginably enormous and unimaginably gentle at once, how the same vastness that humbles you also cradles you, how the room that has no walls is the safest room of all, for a room with no walls can never close in. And should a fear rise, the small old fear of being a speck in something so large, turn it once more in your hands and see its other face. Because to be small in a place this vast is not to be diminished, it is to be unburdened. It is to set down the weight of mattering enormously, and to rest in the simple sweetness of being carried. A single mote of dust adrift between the galaxies is not pleading to be noticed, it is simply allowed to be. Allowed to drift its slow arc across 10 million years of dark, asking nothing, owing nothing. And you are allowed that too. Allowed to release the long effort of holding yourself together. Allowed to thin and spread and drift into the wide welcome that the dark extends to everything that enters it. The thread that ties the galaxies ties you to your own breath as well, drawing out and drawing in. A faint shuttle passing back and forth across the loom of you, weaving the dark in and the dark out, and with each pass the cloth grows looser, easier, more willing to let you sink. So go on letting the distances grow inside you. Let the space between one heartbeat and the next widen like the space between two far stars, unworried by the gap, trusting the thread that spans it, and feel how the silence out there is not the silence of something missing, but the silence of a place so full of room that sound itself has lain down to rest. You are drifting now in the thinnest of seas, the shoreless one, the one that asks no swimming and grants no edges, and there is no wrong way to drift in it, no direction that is lost. Because every direction here is only more of the same wide welcome, more of the same patient dark holding you the way water holds the floating, the way the night holds the sleeper, the way the great between holds its few far atoms, loosely, kindly, forever. Let the immensity be your bedding. Let the vastness tuck itself around your slowing limbs. Let the dark that lies between the galaxies be not a place you fear to fall into, but a room already made for you, already warmed, already wide enough to hold every part of you that is wanted, for so long, simply to lie down in something endless and be at ease. And as the thread draws once more across the quiet loom, in and out, near and far, you feel the next length of dark begin to gather, soft and unending, waiting to be crossed without ever needing to be crossed at all, and so you drift further out, past the last lantern fires of the spiral arms, into the long open reach where the galaxies thin and scatter like sparks left far behind. And here, where there is almost nothing at all, you begin to notice the temperature of the dark, the way it settles around you the moment the stars fall back, and it is cold here. Profoundly cold. Colder than any winter morning you have ever known. And yet there is nothing in this cold that wants anything from you, nothing that bites or hurries, only a slow lowering, a sinking toward the very floor of all coldness, the place beneath which nothing can grow any colder, and your body, which has carried so much warmth and so much weight, feels itself permitted at last to let some of that go. The way you sometimes turn your pillow in the night to find the cool side waiting for you, that small relief against your cheek, that easy coolness that tells you it is time to rest, and the between is made entirely of that cool side of the pillow, stretched out in every direction, endless, patient, asking nothing. You learn, drifting here, that this is the emptiest place there is, and that its emptiness is not a hunger, but a kind of tenderness. For the dark between the galaxies is the thinnest of seas. a vastness so nearly empty that it becomes a sort of mercy, an ocean you could drift through forever, without ever reaching a shore, without ever needing to reach one. And the water of this sea is the cold itself, smooth and even and unbroken, holding you the way still water holds a swimmer who has stopped struggling and simply lain back to float, and you lie back into it now, into the cool of it, and you find that the cold does not press in but rather opens out, giving you room, giving you space, more space than you have ever been given in your life, and there is nothing crowding you here, no noise, no edges, no clock. Only the wide, even chill, spreading slow beneath your shoulders like a sheet pulled fresh across a bed. And how quiet it is, here in the deep between, quieter than any room you have ever stood in, quieter than the hour before dawn when even the birds have not yet stirred. For sound is a thing that needs a crowd, it needs air. It needs particles close enough to nudge each other and pass the trembling along, and out here the particles are so few, so widely scattered, that there is almost no one left to carry a sound from one place to the next, and so the silence is not an absence that frightens, but a fullness, a completeness. The most peaceful hush there is, a silence so total and so kind that it seems to reach inside you and smooth the small frayed threads of the day, loosening them one by one, letting each worried thought drift loose and float away unspoken into the dark, where it dissolves without a sound. You could call out here, and the cold would simply hold your voice close and let it fade. Not swallow it harshly, but receive it, the way deep water receives a single drop and makes it part of itself. And in that receiving there is nothing lost, only something joined, something carried gently down into rest. There is light here, though, even in this deepest dark, and you would not expect it, but it is everywhere, faint and even and unbroken. A low glow that does not come from any single star, but seems instead to seep from the very walls of space itself, from every direction at once, soft and dim as the last embers banked beneath ash. And this is the oldest light there is, the first light the universe ever made, set loose when everything was young and warm and close together, and it has been traveling ever since, for longer than there have been eyes to catch it, cooling slowly as it came, stretching as it went, until now it arrives here as the merest whisper of warmth, the faintest even afterglow, a glow so low and so steady that it asks nothing of you, only surrounds you, the way the dimmest nightlight surrounds a sleeping child, and tells them, without words, that they are not alone in the dark, that the dark is friendly, that they are held. And you are held by it now, bathed in this first ancient light that has been gentling itself toward you for nearly all of time. A light so old it has forgotten how to be bright, content now only to be present, only to glow at the edge of seeing, an even, tender hush of brightness laid over the whole sky like the faintest blush of dawn that never quite arrives and never needs to. Feel how the cold and the glow agree with one another, how the deep chill and the faint light belong to the same enormous calm, for the cold is only the long, slow settling of that first warmth, spread now so thin across so much space that it has become this serene low temperature, this floor near the bottom of all coldness, and there is something restful in knowing that even this cold is the same warmth you came from, only rested now, only quieted, the way a fire that has burned all evening sinks at last to coals that still hold heat enough to keep you, still glow faint enough to see by, before sleep takes you fully. You are not separate from this. The warmth that made the galaxies and the cold that lies between them are the same single breath, exhaled long ago and exhaling still, and you ride that breath outward now, slow and weightless, letting it carry you across the thinnest of seas, and there is no shore ahead and no shore behind, and the not arriving is itself the rest. For you do not have to get anywhere, you do not have to do anything, you have only to drift, and be held, and grow easy in the cool. Notice your breathing finding the rhythm of this place, slowing to match the slow, even pulse of the afterglow, each breath drawn in like a long, smooth current of cool water, each breath let go like a thread unspooling soft into the dark. And that thread, your breath, runs out from you into the vast tranquil between and is taken up by it, woven into the great loose weave of all that quiet, so that you are not adrift and lost, but stitched lightly into the fabric of the whole still sea. One thread among the countless faint threads of first light that drift through this place. All of them low and patient. All of them at rest. You belong to the weave. You are held in it the way a single strand is held in a vast, soft cloth, never pulled, never strained, only resting in the company of every other strand, and the cloth is cool and endless and kind, and it has been waiting for you, and now you lie in it. The cold deepens as you go, and you welcome it now, this serene falling temperature, because you understand it at last. You feel it not as a threat, but as a covering, a coolness drawn up over you the way a thin sheet is drawn up over a sleeper on a warm night. Just enough to settle the skin, just enough to say rest now, and the deep between, near the very floor of coldness, lit only by that faint, unwavering first light, becomes the most peaceful place that has ever existed or could ever exist. A place with no danger in it, no edge to fall from, no sound to wake you, no shore to reach, only the thin, endless sea of the dark holding you afloat, only the cool side of the pillow stretching out forever, only the slow, low glow of the oldest light keeping its tender watch, and you sink a little further, weightless and warmless and wonderfully unburdened, deeper into the hush, deeper into the wide, even cool, deeper into the long, tranquil drift between the galaxies where. And so you begin to understand that the dark is not the exception, but the rule. Not the gap between the bright things, but the great body in which the bright things are held, the way a single drop is held by the whole of the water around it. When you first looked up, you thought the stars were the universe, and the black behind them was only their absence, only the place where something forgot to be. But it is the other way around. The black is the universe, almost all of it, and the galaxies are the rare ones, the small lit knots strung far apart across a vastness so wide it has no edges you could ever find. Count the matter, weigh the light, and it comes to almost nothing against the dark. You are a creature made in the thin, bright margin, and yet the dark is your true country, the one you have always lived inside without once feeling afraid of it. It has been around you this whole time, holding the cradle, holding the sky, holding you, and you never noticed because it never asked you to. Think of it as the thinnest of seas, that ocean between the galaxies, so nearly empty that its emptiness turns into a kind of tenderness. There is no shore in it, and no shore is a frightening thing only when you are looking for one. Let yourself stop looking. Let the wanting of a shore loosen and slip from your hands the way a rope slips loose when there is nothing left it needs to tie. Out here you could drift forever and never strike anything hard, never bruise against a wall, never reach an end and have to turn around. The vastness that the mind first calls lonely is the same vastness that, felt with the body, becomes the most spacious rest you have ever been given. Nothing is pressing on you. Nothing is crowding in. There is simply room, and more room, and room past that. An openness so complete that it can hold every part of you without effort, the way deep water holds a swimmer who has finally stopped fighting it and lain back and let the sea do the carrying. And the sea does carry you, even here, even now, even in the dark between. The thread that runs through all of this, the single low note you keep returning to, is that the emptiness is not against you. It is not a hunger waiting to swallow what light remains. It is the patient thing that gives the galaxies somewhere to be, the slow stage on which everything turns, the held breath that does not need to be released because it was never strained. Every spiral you have ever seen in a photograph, every soft smudge of distant suns, floats in this dark the way a lantern floats on a still pond at night. And the pond does not resent the lantern, and the dark does not resent the stars. It simply holds them, faintly, easily, forever, asking nothing back. You are one more small light it is holding. You have been floated this whole time on a sea you could not see, and the not seeing was never danger. It was only the dark, being so gentle that it stayed out of your way. Feel how the fear drains out of the word empty when you say it slowly. Empty is only frightening when you imagine falling, and there is no falling here, because falling needs a down, and the dark between the galaxies has no down and no up, no floor to rush toward, no height to lose. There is only floating, the long even floating of something that weighs nothing and is owed nothing and is chased by nothing. Out there, the few stray atoms drift so far from one another that one of them might travel the width of a whole room and meet no other its entire long life. And that is not loneliness. That is peace, so wide it has thinned almost to silence. The hush of a place where nothing collides because nothing is hurried, where nothing breaks because nothing is forced together. If you were a single atom adrift in that thinnest of seas, you would have all the room in creation and all the time there is, and nothing at all would ever ask you to arrive. So let the immensity that once made you small make you weightless instead. The same distance that the mind shrinks from, the body can sink into. The way you sink into a bed that is far larger than you are, and feel not lost in it, but cradled. The dark between is enormous beyond any picture you can hold, and the enormity is doing nothing more dramatic than holding still, the way a vast tranquil bay holds still at the slack of the tide, all its water gone quiet, all its motion paused, nothing going anywhere because there is nowhere it needs to go. You are inside that pause. You have always been inside it. The hum of your own breath, slow now and low, is one small tide moving through a stillness that does not mind the moving, a thread of warmth crossing an ocean that was already holding the warmth before it arrived. And here the thread loops back to where the body is, because the dark between the galaxies and the dark behind your own closed eyes are not so different, are not so far apart as they seem. Both are vast. Both are nearly empty of anything that could harm you. Both are seas you are floating in without needing to swim. When you let your eyes stay shut and the room behind them open out, you are looking at your own private span of the dark between, your own thin and tender ocean, and it holds you exactly as faithfully as the Great One holds the galaxies. There is no shore in it either, and you do not need one. You can drift here as long as you like. You can let the drifting be the whole of what you do. Let the weight come now, the easy weight, the good weight of a body that has finally been given permission to be held. Let your shoulders give their burden to the bed beneath them and feel the bed take it without complaint, the way the dark takes the stars. Let your arms grow heavy and unhurried, the muscles letting go one slow strand at a time, each one a thread you no longer need to keep pulled tight, each one slackening into the warmth around it. Let your hands rest open or curled, however they fall, and let them stay exactly there. Let the long muscles of your legs lengthen and soften and sink. Let your back settle. Let the small held places between your brows and along your jaw unclench and spread flat and serene. There is nothing here to brace against. There is no wall to meet. There is only the wide held dark, and you adrift in it, carried. Breathe low and even. Let each breath be a tide that rises without effort and falls without effort, the air arriving and leaving the way the sea arrives and leaves a sleeping coast, never forced, never rushed, asking nothing of you but that you let it come and let it go. You do not have to deepen it. You do not have to slow it. The breath already knows the tempo of the dark, the long, unhurried rhythm of a sea, so vast that a single swell can take an age to cross it and never once be late. Lie back into that rhythm. Let it carry the last of the watching out of your mind, the way a faint current carries a drifting thing out past the shallows and into the open water, and over the open water, and on. And as the watching loosens, feel how the whole immensity has narrowed to this single warm point that is your resting body, and how that single warm point is, even so, still floating in all of it, still held by all of it, the dark between the galaxies and the dark behind your eyes, one continuous serene ocean, with no edge and no end and no demand. You are a small light it is holding. You have been held all along. There is nowhere to reach. There is nothing to touch. There is only the thinnest of seas, and you, drifting and the drift. Tonight has been about the dark between the galaxies, about the thinnest of seas spread out so wide and so empty that it stops being a void and becomes, instead, a kind of tenderness, an ocean you could drift in forever without ever once touching a shore. Tonight has been about the patient distances, the long, slow reaches of nothing where light takes millions of years to cross from one faint island of stars to the next, and finds, along the way, almost nothing at all to interrupt it. Tonight has been about emptiness reframed as room, about the cold rivers of space reimagined as warm currents, about the great hush between worlds laid out beneath you like a tide that has decided for your sake to stop rising. Tonight has been about how little there is out there, and how that littleness, far from frightening, is the most restful thing in all of existence, a thinning of everything down to almost pure stillness, a sea so close to empty that nothing in it can ever press against you or ask you to swim. You have followed a single thread through all of it, and you can feel that thread now, the one that runs from your slow breathing out across the dark, the one that ties you loosely to the drifting galaxies the way a swimmer floating on her back is tied to the whole patient body of the ocean. That thread does not pull. It never has. It only lets you know that you belong to this vastness, that you are woven gently into the thinnest of seas, carried without effort, held without being grasped. And the thread runs both ways, outward into the dark and inward into your chest, so that the immense quiet between the galaxies and the small quiet inside you turn out to be the very same fabric, the same low and easy weave, the same long ocean breathing in slow motion all around you. Let it stay simple now. The galaxies drift, and you drift. The space between them widens, slowly, slowly, and nothing is lost in the widening. The light crosses the dark, and the dark lets it pass, The galaxies drift, and you drift. The thinnest of seas opens beneath your weightless body, mile upon mile of serene nothing, and it asks for nothing back. The space widens, and you settle. The galaxies drift, and you drift, and the drifting itself is the rest you came here for. There is nothing left to do tonight, nothing to hold, nothing to keep watch over. None of this needs anything from you tonight. The galaxies will keep their slow paths whether or not you follow them. The thinnest of seas will hold its hush whether or not you listen. The thread that ties you to all of it does the holding for you, the way the ocean holds the swimmer who has finally stopped swimming, the way the dark holds the small lights without ever crushing them. You do not have to understand the distances. You do not have to picture the immensity. You do not have to keep the cosmos turning. It turns on its own, vast and tender and complete, and it has already made a place for you in its quiet, a floating place, an easy place, a place where you are carried and never asked to carry anything at all. So let your attention loosen its grip, finger by finger, the way a hand opens underwater and lets the current take what it was holding. There is another quiet exploration waiting on the screen, another drift through some far and peaceful corner of the dark, and you do not need to reach for it. You do not need to choose it. You do not need to lift a single hand. Let it begin on its own. Let it rise softly out of the silence when this one ends. Another thread unspooling into another sea, another slow tide ready to carry you on while you stay exactly where you are, floating, sinking, dissolving by gentle degrees into sleep. You have done nothing all night but be carried, and that is all that is asked of you now, to keep being carried, to let the next voyage cross the dark toward you without ever opening your eyes. And if some faint thought still drifts across you before you go, you might wonder, in that low and unhurried way, what you would name this thinnest of seas if it were yours to name. What single quiet word you would give to the vast, tender ocean between the galaxies, and you could leave that word behind in the dark below for someone else to find, a small light set adrift on the current, a thread passed on. There is no need to answer now. The question can float there, untroubled, while you sink past it into something deeper. Now feel how heavy you have become. The good heaviness of a body that has stopped resisting, the slow weight of someone who has lain back fully onto the surface of an endless sea and discovered that it holds. Feel your shoulders release their last small effort, sinking by a hair into the dark beneath them. Feel your jaw come unclenched, your brow smoothing flat, the faint tension behind your eyes melting outward and away into the cold, tranquil distances where it has all the room in the universe to disperse. Feel your hands far away now, resting open, the fingers slightly curled, no longer holding the thread, but trusting it, letting it hold them. Feel your breath go long and low, each exhale a little slower than the one before, each one carrying you a measure further out across the thinnest of seas, away from every shore, toward the soft middle of nowhere where nothing can reach you and nothing needs to. The galaxies are drifting apart out there, unhurried, taking their billions of years, and you are drifting too, downward, inward, into a hush so wide it has no edges. The thread between you and the vastness goes slack and warm, no longer a tie but a hammock, a current, a tide that rocks you by the smallest degree as you sink. There is so much dark, and it is all so kind. There is so much space, and it has all been set aside, this whole tranquil ocean, just to cradle the slow and sleeping shape of you. You are the faintest light adrift on the thinnest of seas, and the sea is glad to carry you, and the carrying will not stop when your thoughts do. Let the last images go. Let the galaxies blur into a low and distant glimmer. Let the distances soften until they are only a feeling of being held in something immense and tender. Let the thread fade from your awareness entirely, knowing it will keep its hold long after you have forgotten it is there. Knowing the dark will keep you afloat through every hour of the night. Without your help, without your watching, without your knowing. There is nowhere to arrive. There is no shore to reach. There is only this endless, peaceful drifting, this slow descent through the warm and empty sea between the worlds, deeper and deeper, lower and lower, until you can no longer tell where your breathing ends and the vast quiet ocean of space begins. You are carried now. You are held now. You are loose and weightless and far out on the thinnest of seas, sinking by the smallest, slowest measures into rest, and nothing in all that immensity wants anything from you but this. Drift. Sink. Let the dark close softly over you like water closing over a light that has finally gone still. Let the next voyage cross the distance on its own. Let the thread carry you the rest of the way down, past every thought, past every word, into the deep, tender hush where the galaxies and your breathing become one slow tide, rocking, rocking, easing you all the way under. Sleep well.